As the trade deadline approaches, teams look at themselves and they need to determine what their needs are, if they're buying or if they're selling at the deadline. The Phillies look like they're going to buy at the deadline this year. The Phillies fans know they have a hole at first base. The Phillies front office know they have a hole at first base, which has led many in among the media and the fan base to cry for Paul Goldschmidt from the Cardinals. The Cardinals appear like they are going to sell because they are pretty awful this season. I'm going to tell you why trading for Paul Goldschmidt would just be an awful, 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 awful idea for the Phillies this season. Let's start off with why the fan base wants Goldschmidt. Goldschmidt is an elite first baseman. He hits a ton. He fields relatively well for a first baseman, considering most first basemen are below average fielders. And he has next year under contract. So this all adds up. People look at this and they go, right-handed bat, he hits for power, he hits for a high average. What is there not to like about him? And he gets on base, which is, as we all know, Billy Beane loves the guys who can get on base. The first problem we run into with Paul Goldschmidt is his age. First basemen tend to decline extremely heavily in their mid-30s. You can say Goldschmidt has kept it up for a while. He's 35. But the decline is coming. This likely means there is no future for him with the team once we get past his age 36 season and his contract expires with the team. At least there's no long-term future with the team. They might sign him to a year or two after that, but he's not going to be around for another 7-8 years with the team because he will have fallen completely off the map by that point. The next problem with getting Goldschmidt is going to be the position. Bryce Harper, currently for the Phillies, is working his way back, and he's working really hard to probably play first base. Now, a lot of people are thinking, well, what's the point of him playing first? Well, what that would allow them to do is it opens up the DH spot for the Phillies, which means they can take Kyle Schwarber and his negative 12.4 defensive WAR on Fangraphs, which, if you don't know, it basically means he has lost a game for them this year, 1.2 games for them this year, just from his defensive ineptitude alone. And they could put Kyle Schwarber at DH and put somebody else, maybe Pache or Marsh, into left field. This would save them a lot on defense in the long run, but getting Goldschmidt, however, would mean that Harper could not go to first base and Schwarber could not come out of left field. This would be a nightmare, I think, for Phillies fans, because I think as Phillies fans, we are all sick and tired of seeing Kyle Schwarber, attempt to play left field, to put it. Another issue with Goldschmidt would be the salary. The Phillies are very likely going to have to eat the majority of Goldschmidt's salary when they get him from the Cardinals. This is going to mean that we're going to incur more luxury tax penalties on the Phillies, which people go, oh, whatever. John Middleton, and I'm not the billionaire, it's his money, I don't care. But it means that he becomes probably less likely to spend as much in this offseason on free agents because they're dealing with the Paul Goldschmidt contract. Now, I don't know about you, but I think the Phillies fans would be very happy to invest more in, say, relief pitching or in, starting pitching in this offseason rather than having a weight holding that down at first base into the offseason when you could maybe get Rhys Hoskins back in the offseason for relatively cheap due to his AC. The next point is a little long-winded, but you'll have to stay with me on this. Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola are both likely not long for the Phillies. Nola, a lot of people are speculating they're just going to let him walk in the offseason. I personally would hate that. I think he's going to bounce back in a big way next year, just like he did in 22 after 21. I think his haters don't know what they're really talking about in terms of saying he's always been an inconsistent or overrated pitcher for them. I think they're incredibly stupid for saying that. But they're both leaving, likely. Their contracts, at least, are both up in the next 2 years. And Wheeler's already showing signs of aging. His fastball velocity still good. He's still a very good pitcher, but his fastball velocity is starting to slowly drop. He doesn't seem that same command that he has had in the past few years. This brings us to Griff McGarry and Mick Abel, the likely asking price for Paul Goldschmidt for 1.5 years from the Cardinals. Griff McGarry and Mick Abel, for those who don't know, number 2 and 3 rated prospects for the Phillies, and they're both very highly touted pitching prospects with the potential to be 2 and 3 starters in the rotation. These guys both have the potential to really mitigate the loss of Wheeler and Nola through free agency or however they may leave the team. But now when you trade them, you suddenly have a massive black hole in the rotation after the next 2, 3, 4 years. And that's not going to be easily fixed from free agency. And if it is, it's going to cost the Phillies a lot to fix those holes. And what did you get from it? You got a year and a half of 35 to 36, 37-year-old Paul Goldschmidt. Now you have to ask yourself, is that really worth it? A lot of fans will say yes, because, we got to win now, and he'll help us win now. But I would like to remind them that that same kind of mentality is what put the Phillies through an 11-year playoff drought and completely depleted their farm system to the point where everything of value had to get dumped for prospects, like Cole Hamels, Papelbon, Revere, Ken Giles. All those players had to be dumped for prospects because of how empty the farm system was. And the Phillies farm system still really isn't in that great of a shape right now. Their number 1, 2, and 3 guys in order are Andrew Painter, Mick Abel, and Griff McGarry. And they really don't have any notable position prospects outside of Justin Crawford. Now, while, trading for Goldschmidt won't deplete those guys like Crawford, it will certainly deplete your top 2 of 3 guys in the rotation, potentially for the future. Now, Painter isn't replacing Nola or Wheeler. Painter, when he comes up, eventually, assuming his injury isn't persistent, he's going to come up and he's going to slot into the number 5 spot. When Painter and Wheeler leave, those are going to be fresh. When Nola and Wheeler leave, those are going to be fresh new holes on the roster that they have to fill. That's not going to be an easy hole to fill. Also, Abel and McGarry aren't just some long-term, we'll see them in 3 or 4 years type players. They are guys we are likely to see within the end of this season or the start of next year. They're very young, they're cost controllable, their trends only seem to be going upwards. Are you really willing to part with both of those potentially top-level rotation pitchers for a year and a half of Paul Goldschmidt? I personally am not. I would never make this trade in a million years. And this is what the trade is going to be if it happens. It's going to be Goldschmidt and maybe some reserve player for McGarry and Abel. And I think that is a completely unacceptable price for the Phillies to pay for a year and a half of a guy who's going to be aged 37 by the time he's done with his contract with the team. So in conclusion, trading for Goldschmidt would provide a lot of pop in the lineup. It would fill the hole that is at first base right now, but it would prevent Harper from moving to first and then Schwarber moving out at the outfield, which would dramatically help fix the Phillies' abhorrent outfield defense, which at the corners is Castellanos and Schwarber, which Phillies fans falsely think that Castellanos is somehow an elite defender now. No, he's not. And it would allow that defense now to suddenly be much better since you can move Marsh to left and maybe Pache to center. And I know Phillies fans are hesitant about Pache against righties. I am too. But I think the potential for better defense out in center field far, far outweighs that. Then you have the overall asking price. And this is what the Cardinals are asking for. And the Cardinals are a smart organization. They are asking for both those prospects from us. For Paul Goldschmidt, they will fleece us. Because the Cardinals are an incredibly, incredibly smart organization. And that's how they've been competitive for nearly the past decade. Almost like clockwork. They've been around 100 wins. Is because they are a smart org that makes a lot of smart trades. And I don't think you want to play ball with the Cardinals at the trade deadline. So in conclusion, this trade is a bad idea. The Phillies shouldn't do it. If they do it, I'm going to scream because it is just such a blatantly abhorrent idea to trade away your 2 and 3 prospects, one of which is a top 30, top 40 prospect in all of baseball at the start of the year, for a guy you'll probably have for a year and a half. So that's all from me. I hope you enjoyed my spiel about why I think this trade is just a horrid idea for the Phillies. I hope you liked the video. Hope, you didn't hate it too badly. And maybe go watch my other content about Alec Boehm and why I think he is not the future at third base. Enjoy your day.